Hello, and welcome to Protect and Prevent the P3 Kids podcast, brought to you by MillionKids.org. My name is Opal Singleton. I'm the president and CEO of Million Kids, but there's a whole lot more to this organization than just me. Thank you for listening. The title of today's podcast is Another Tragic Loss of a Young Person. And this is part of the Never Again series. You know, our team explores sextortion cases, and sextortion has changed so much. But one of the challenges that we deal with every day is people don't want to hear about it. Now, if you're listening to this podcast, you're different, okay? And you're definitely a leader. So thank you for listening. I often think to myself, what if the bad news you don't want to hear could save a young person's life? Would you listen? Well, you're listening, so thank you. What if you could learn just one fact that might save a child's life? Would you stop and pay attention? Well, it seems like you are, and I appreciate you. Million Kids is an organization located in Southern California, but we're a national organization, and we are dedicated to saving kids from predators. And there has been something happening in the last 3 years that just makes our heart bleed. And it is so unnecessary. You know, this isn't like it's COVID and you need a vaccine or something. This is a conversation. This is a chance to educate yourself so that you can be a leader to educate others. And while what we're going to talk about today is not just negative, it is heartbreaking. What I'm going to tell you is you can be the solution. You can make a difference if you're willing to listen to the bad news and realize that it is just not necessary. What I am talking about is financial sextortion. Sextortion is an act that is usually online, and it usually involves some sort of illicit photo, whether you fall in love and you get hot and heavy and you take a photo, or you're lured in by an absolute total stranger into sending a photo. Any kind of illicit photo online can change your life forever. And we have been dealing with sextortion now for more than 15 years. And my, how it has changed. Our team was talking about that. And this is why it is so important for you to educate yourself. Because for years and years, professionals, law enforcement, security officers, counselors, teachers have dealt with sextortion, but they have handled it different than it now needs to be handled. We must change with the times, and that means me educating you so that you understand. You see, for the last 15 years, what has happened is somebody's made a photo together, and then it gets out there to somebody, and they blackmail them. And in the past, nobody took it too seriously. It was like, what the hell were you thinking sending a nude online in the first place? But it is a lot more common that anybody seems to realize. And this is one of the things that we have to do is to help our kids change their thinking about online nudes. Up until the last 2 or 3 years, somebody would send a nude and the advice would be, well, don't ever do it again. And what were you thinking? Or just block them. They probably aren't going to do anything bad to you. Those days are gone forever. If you are a pastor, a teacher, a parent, or a professional of any kind that is advising kids, just block them and walk away, stop. I need you to hear how it changed. So we have some new statistics. About 1 out of 6 boys, and those are mainly kids that are in their 12 to 17-year-olds, About 31% of kids that are 13 to 17-year-olds agree that it is normal for kids their age to share news. Does that scare the socks off of you? Well, it should if you know the reality of how life changed. You could get away with it maybe before COVID, but you cannot get away with it now. 1 in 6 guys, 1 in 7 girls have sent a nude. That must stop immediately. And I need you to have those conversations with your kids. Now, it does not have to be a finger wagging conversation. It does not be you sit down there and I'm going to tell you how the cheese is made. Okay. It ain't like that. This is a conversation to understand how the entire world changed in the last 3 years. I'm about to release my new book. Again, my name is Opal Singleton, and the book is called Digital Warfare, Our Kids on the Front Line. You see, all of this changed in the last 3 years, and we're somehow remotely aware of it, but we're not really aware of it, okay? And what has happened here is that the entire world 3 years ago started to be connected by 5G high-speed internet. We are all aware of it, but very few people are aware of how it's different. So what does that mean, and what does that mean for you and me? It means now that third world countries, called developing countries, now have access to your child. And they have figured out immediately that the way to make billions of dollars is to blackmail an American kid or a UK kid or an Australian kid. This is not just happening to you in your neighborhood. This is a worldwide phenomena, and we have to get pastors and teachers and educators and parents and grandparents and all kinds of security personnel and law enforcement up to speed on what this means. Because what is happening, now get this picture in your head, it's a little complicated, but I want you to understand it to a point that you can tell others about it, because we have to spread the word. And if you're willing to listen to this podcast, you're already a leader willing to spread the word. So let me give you the facts so that you can talk intelligently about it. So third world countries, called developing countries, these are places like Nigeria, Myanmar, Pakistan, Ivory Coast, and on and on and on. They now have high-speed internet. And it isn't just high speed. They have geolocation software, just like you do. They can tell where people are at. They literally have global money transfer, making it easy for your child to be blackmailed. And then they demand payment where they can collect literally millions of dollars online in a heartbeat. And guess what? Your child is the first child, the first generation of kids that know how to send money online because they have been using Bitcoin on your video games. So they already understand how to send money. They're the first generation here with mass audience live streaming. What do I mean by that? That means that literally, instead of talking to 25 or 45 of their best friends, that they literally can be online in TikTok or Instagram or Snapchat, and they will be on there with millions of people. Some of our kids have 500,000 or 1 million followers because they want to be influencers. Think about that. If your child has 1 million followers online on, let's say, TikTok, what percentage of them could be bad guys? Let's say it's 1%. The number is much higher, but my math's a little weak, so we'll work with that. That is 10,000 potential bad people that your child has to learn to stand against. And keep in mind, your child wants to be an influencer. And so it is all changed because our kids are used to living in a globally connected world without understanding the world they live in. We haven't set them down and said, take a look at this. Your world changed. Yeah, you could send nudes back before the world was globally connected, but a nude online today is a social death sentence and can even end up in a physical harm or death sentence. Do you know, mom and dad, pastors, teachers, educators, almost 45 young people, mostly extremely successful young people, have taken their own lives in the last 2 to 3 years because they are a victim of financial sextortion. Most of them had never heard of it, and neither had their parents. How can we lose 45 precious, successful young people and this not being screamed from the highest heavens? Every parent needs to stop in their tracks until they know it. Here's why this is so important. We are just getting started. Only 70% of the world's population is now connected online. 5.5 billion people. The next 30% will be coming on, and they're even poorer than the people that already have the internet. So we are just getting started with financial sextortion, and this must be front page news in every home in America, Australia, and the UK, and it must be there immediately. Okay, we cannot, never again should we lose another child. This week, we learned, and it actually happened a couple, 3 weeks ago, but as we have really focused on it, the life of a precious young man by the name of Bryce Tate. He was out of Cross Lanes, West Virginia. He was one of the last kids you would ever thought would take his own life. His parents had never heard of financial sextortion, and they believed that Bryce had never heard of financial sextortion. And as I read their stories online, my heart breaks for them because they are begging and pleading the world to please talk about it. And we are in the business of talking about it, and we are going to make that a priority. So, thank you for listening and supporting our work so that we can not only educate you to be a leader, educate your kids to be a leader, but we can get this word out there to everyone we know. We especially want to focus on youth pastors and ministers across the nation. We want to focus on sports coaches because we believe that most young men, and literally 95% of the young men that we have lost over the last 3 years, were males. 95% of the victims were young males. And these are not kids on the edge. These are homecoming kings. These are sports stars. These are kids in the news. That's part of the problem. There is a lot of information online about these kids that literally now you have artificial intelligence. And all that information can be gathered up to target your kids. You see, what is happening is cartels in these developing countries are enslaving the poor people in their country. Yes, they're being trafficked also. And they are being held hostage and they are being forced to look like a 14-year-old kid to your child or a 17-year-old kid to your child and seducing your child into sending a nude. I don't know the statistics really, but I'd bet my bottom line that the bulk of these 45 kids that have taken their own life have probably never sent a nude online before. They are extremely successful kids. And they are the last kid that you would have ever thought would become a victim of sextortion. And as I listen to the pain and the heartbreak and the bleeding of their family, every parent is saying, please tell my child's story so that we do not lose another child. And yet I talk to pastors and they go, well, it's pretty negative. It's pretty negative, and our kids are good kids. I don't know that we need to do that. When I talk to teachers, they go, I'm not sure they're going to listen. When I talk to parents, they'll go, not my kid. My kid's a good kid. Every one of these kids were good kids, okay? In fact, that's part of the problem. Once they get blackmailed, they hold up their pictures. They hold up their photos of them getting an award or getting a scholarship or being recognized for success, and they go, and here's your nude. And here's your list of all of your followers on Instagram. And here's a list of all your TikTok followers. And here's a list of all your social media friends. And this nude image is going to go out to them if you don't get me $500 immediately. And the kid will immediately say, you can't do that. I'm ruined. I'm destroyed. And they will spend the next 2 or 3 hours destroying that child's ego. You're right. You're a failure. You're lost. This nude's everywhere. You're through. You're damaged goods. And this is going to go out if you don't get me money. And that kid suddenly visualized himself as a failure, as being shamed and embarrassed and lost, and they panic. In this case, according to the articles we read, Bryce Tate took his own life in under 4 hours of the abuse starting from this foreign national group, overseas group. Imagine losing your child to a Nigerian scam group. Imagine losing your child to someone in the Ivory Coast because you didn't know and they didn't know. In preparing for this podcast, I thought to myself, what if you could just learn one fact that might save a child's life? Would you stop and pay attention? Well, if you're still listening to this podcast, you're one of those winners that are willing to stop and pay attention. So let's talk about it. It doesn't have to be a finger wagging moment. It doesn't have to be a point of conflict between you and your child. In fact, I encourage you to take this opportunity to understand that this is the most important time in all of history to be a parent, and the most important time in all of history to be a teenager. Why is that? Your child is the first generation in all of history that will live in a globally connected world. And how we teach these young people to live in a world that is technology based, and believe me, we're just getting started. Your child lives in a technological world. We must teach them to live in that world with respect and responsibility, because your child is the first child in all of history that leads this generation, but they will lead every generation from here to eternity. So we have to get this right. It is like when they developed cars, and we had to teach our children to drive a car with respect and responsibility, understanding the power or the positive of that car, to go off and to get a degree, to go to school, to meet good people, to live a good life, or to use that car to get drunk and drive and crash that car and harm others. We are at a pivotal moment in history, and you are the leader. This does not have to be negative. I find it very, very exciting. I believe that if those 45 kids had understood the world they lived in, they never would have sent that nude in the first place. One of the most important things we can talk to our kids about is, yeah, you may have sent a nude in the past. Your older brother and sister may have sent a nude, but you live in a different society. You live in a different generation. And it is a call to leadership to understand that a nude online of any kind will change your life. You see why this is so important? Is your child's the first generation that gets deep fakes. Maybe they didn't send a nude. Maybe they just sent partially a nude, and it got altered, and they're not even really guilty. But that nude is out there and they feel guilty, and they're going to be blackmailed. What your child needs to understand is they live in a different world, and you want to be the parent that helps guide them through that world. And so we need that conversation about what this is going to look like so that when and if it happens, and believe me, more and more, it's when, not if, your child will be prepared to defend themselves and to handle it like a leader. You see, I've never met a kid yet that wants to be violated. Never once met a kid that says, oh, yeah, why don't you take advantage of me? What I have met are a lot of kids that won't recognize when they are being violated. But as parents and teachers and pastors and sports coaches, it is our responsibility to show them what this is going to look like so they will recognize it. Wagging your finger and shaming them some more will not fix this. Giving them the power of information will allow you to be a leader and allow them to be a leader to other people. So here's what it's going to look like. First of all, they'll catch them in a weak moment. Now, this can be a week up moment or a week down moment. They might have just won. They might have been really, really excited. They might have just got a scholarship. They might have just been picked homecoming king and they're feeling really high. That causes your judgment to go south, okay? And that's true of you and me and a 13 or 15-year-old hormonal kid. So it could be when they're really, really high and things are going well, or it could be when they're in a down moment, okay? Maybe at 3 o'clock in the morning when they're a little hormonal. Keep in mind, this generation is putting the most hormonal people on earth online to talk to total strangers when they are the most vulnerable. How crazy is that, mom and dad? Okay, but we're doing it. And every kid I know will be doing it. So, how do we teach them to protect themselves? Well, we show them what that's going to look like. First thing's going to happen is she's hot. Oh man, is she hot? And you're vulnerable right now. You're feeling a little friendly, and here she comes. And it's somebody you never met, but she probably will look like a friend of a friend. That's how it looks. Oh, this is somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, and you want to know that somebody. And it goes that quickly. It is usually a friend of a friend. It can be somebody 14, somebody 17. Now, this is true for girls too, but it happens most often with guys. For whatever reason, guys are more likely to advertise their natural assets, let's say. Okay. And 1 out of 6 boys and 1 out of 7 girls have said that they have sent a nude online. We need them to understand that can never, ever happen again because it's changed. And if they get themselves in trouble for what's already out there, you need to be able to tell them, well, if it's already out there, we can't fix it. But if somebody threatens you with it, you come to me. We're going to join forces and we're going to go after them because it isn't who you think. You see, it's probably one of these people from Nigeria or Myanmar or Pakistan or Ivory Coast or any other countries out there. She is going to look hot. Now, watch out for friends of friends. That's the first thing you need to teach your child. A friend of a friend is not a friend. Okay. Let's practice those words over and over and over till we get it right. And that's true of grandma and grandpa's friends too. If somebody's a friend of a friend, do not accept them to be a friend until you contact the friend and say, what do you know about this person? In fact, if you have good friends, I recommend you get a code word between you so that you can say, okay, if you're my friend's friend, give me our friend's code word, and I'll let you know if you're a friend of a friend. That's the first simple thing that you can do. But the second simple thing you can do to talk to your teenager is simply explain to them that a friend of a friend or anybody who's real is not going to send you a sexual image. That's because they now know that any sexual image online is a start of blackmail. And instead of it being an invitation for I'll show you yours and you show me mine, it should be a huge red flag. Anything that's sexual from somebody you've never ever met, and by the way, even from somebody you have met, because they can impersonate your friends, any of these kinds of things online ought to be sending off bells and whistles. You ought to be all of a sudden, maybe you can go onto YouTube and download the word scam farms, Nigerian scam farms. Let's do that. Or Myanmar, if you don't know how to spell that, I'm always bad at it myself. It's like MYN. Myanmar, Myanmar or something. Don't correct me on my spelling. Just look it up, okay? It's like that. I'm used to spell check. But look up scam farms together so your child can visualize that when somebody starts to send them a sexual image, who it really is. They need to see who it really is so that they know immediately this is not an invitation. This is an invitation to run, baby, run. Run, baby, run. Get the hell out of there. Do not send them a nude. Anybody who's trying to get you to send compromising stuff may end up being the hottest thing you ever saw and in love with you, but the odds of that are 0 to 1. It is most likely you are about to become a victim of sextortion, and your life will change forever if you do that. So that's the first conversation you need to have, mom and dad, is let's go online and look up scam farms on YouTube, and let's talk about how the internet changed. Mom and dad, if you want more facts, buy my book, Digital Warfare. Listen to more of these podcasts. It isn't just me from me and kids that are making them. There's plenty of information out there so that you can see it isn't just us talking about it, but we're trying to get your attention. I know it's bad news, but it is bad news that could save your kid's life. And I need you to be willing to listen to this bad news and be a leader. The first thing that will happen is that cute, hot little thing will become the ugliest deal you ever saw in your life. In a heartbeat, they turn on you. In a heartbeat, they want money. They might want 500 or 3,500, depending where they're coming from. And they start calling you names and telling you you are damaged goods. The next thing you need to tell your child is there is no such thing as being so damaged that they cannot talk to you. Really, there's no such things, pastors and teachers, as damaged goods because we know that God forgives and we forgive. And our kids need to know that if they did make a mistake, we can help them fix it. It is not the end of the world, and it should never be the end of their life. You see, they're using artificial intelligence, and the minute you start saying, if you don't leave me alone, I'm going to hurt myself, and they say, fine, go ahead, you're a dead man anyway. These people are brutal. They do not care about you. That is why we have lost these precious kids. This should never, ever happen again. And what I'm telling you is you need to understand the crime and the brutality of the crime so that our kids can understand. If you're a sports coach, I hope you will contact me. We're preparing. And by the way, if you're a funder, if you're somebody willing to donate to a nonprofit, we need funding for this project. We are trying to get education packages in the hands of every sports coach and every pastor that we can reach. So if you know a sports coach that you want a package to go to, or a pastor that you want an education package to go to, contact us at Opal, OPAL, at millionkids.org, or go to info. If you can't remember my name, it is a bit weird. Okay. Go info at millionkids.org, not .com, .org, and give us the name of your pastor, or give us the name of your sports coach, And while you're at it, if you want to donate, that'd be good, but you don't have to donate to share the information with us. We want these packages out to everybody. Now, it does take funding. So if you're somebody willing to fund this project, then God bless you, because we cannot do that without you. So what happens is that they look hot of some sort, and they get you to send something. It might just be something topless or something, it might not even be you, but the blackmail will begin. It is that point that you need to know, do not end your life. And parents, you'll often hear me say, when your child has a device, get a contract between them. One is that you'll have every app they have, and you'll talk about it, even if they're 17 years old. One of these victims was 17 years old and 6 foot tall, and mom said, I never even thought to discuss it with him. He looked like a man. Well, these people are men that they are taking advantage of. But men can be easily trapped too, and so can women, by the way. Nobody is exempt from these overseas scam farms. Nobody is exempt. And that's why I need you to know it, to understand it, to learn it, and to share it. So here's what happens. They send the nude, and then they start to get blackmailed, and they start to talk to them about, I need money and a lot of it, and this kid panics. We have to get there first. Mom and dad, they need to understand, do not take your own life. You are not damaged goods. You have fallen prey to something that millions of kids around the world are now facing. And you cannot take this on alone. I need you to be honest with me and come to me, and let's take this on together. Mom and dad, if they're willing to do that, here's what I need you to do. It is not easy, but stay calm. They have trusted you enough to come to you at their most important time. Mom and dad, sports coaches, teachers, pastors, if one of these kids comes to you, this is how you handle it. Now, we've got packages we're sending out to educate all of you, and that's why we need the funding, is to get them out to everybody. But here's what you do. You stay calm, and you do not alert that predator, that pedophile, that organized cartel that you know. Do not delete the photos. We need them for evidence. I know they're embarrassing. Don't show them around to other people. That's your child's dignity. But you tell that young person, look, you did the right thing. Okay, we're in a heap of trouble here, but you did the right thing. And the fact that you were willing to ask for help makes me so proud of you, because we might be able to save others this way. I'm sorry it happened to you. This will get rough. A lot of people will see it. You see, a lot of people, including professional people, just say, well, block them, they'll go away. That was last decades ago, sextortion. These people are not going to go away. They will keep blackmailing you, and yes, they will release the photos. So you're going down a path that's going to be difficult, but they need leadership. So take your young person and take the images and go immediately to your law enforcement cybercrime unit and say, my child is a victim of sextortion. Okay, they sent the photo. That does not make them less of a victim. And they have trusted us enough to stand up for them. So please help us to go online, pretend to be them, and let's find out who they are so that they do not violate other children. And then, mom and dad, here's what happens. You never wag your finger about this to your child. You help that young person to immediately get into counseling so they can talk to someone who is a professional about it. I've never met a kid yet that wants to talk about sex or nudity with mom and dad. Okay, and I'm no different, by the way. I get it. So your child's going to need counseling from somebody other than you. And you and your spouse may also need counseling. Now, if there are younger kids in your family that may have been exposed to this, and it can happen a lot more than you know, because your live streaming device on a kid's video game comes right into your living room and sees all your children in your house, they may need counseling too. But what is important is that you do this in advance, and maybe you even show them this podcast, or you go to Me and Kids and you look at all the kids that have taken their own life. Okay, kids like Jordan DeMay and James Wood and Montgomery Walker. I have read all 45 cases. I have listened to the pleas of their parents. I have listened to the incredible amount of talented kids that we have lost to this. And our team at Million Kids says never, never, never again should we lose another kid to financial sextortion because we did not educate ourselves, and we did not educate each other, and we did not educate pastors, and we did not educate law enforcement and sports coaches. We are going to do this with your help, with your support, with your involvement. And we can teach you to share this message. Whether you're not a public speaker is fine. Share it with everyone you know. This is another tragic loss of a young person. Bryce Tate and his family is in great pain. And we are here at Me and Kids to say never again. I know this is bad news, but I'm here to ask you, would you be willing to share this bad news if it can save lives? We can do it. And we can do it in a way to create a generation of leadership to prepare them to live in the first generation of a globally connected world. It is the challenge of the lifetime. It is a call to leadership. It may be the greatest call to leadership of all time. If you're an adult and you're taking this on, you are doing a leadership work at the most important time of all of history. One more time, I will share with this, and this is part of my book, Digital Warfare, Our Kids on the Front Line. You have a call to leadership to prepare the first generation of kids that live in a globally connected world with all the technology transformations. And this generation of kids will set the stage for all future generations. I believe it's the greatest calling of all time. And that is why I'm asking you to support the work of Million Kids at millionkids.org. My name is Opal Singleton. I hope this helps you. I hope it saves kids. And I'll see you on the next podcast. Thanks for listening.